Hey there, welcome back. In this next three videos, this one and the following two, we're going to be taking a look at the process I go through when I release a new gallery, a new fine art print, and then finally, of course, bringing that to life there on the website. There's a lot involved here, but it's a lot of exciting work because it's all about bringing the work that we've been working on. Certainly, I know you've got a big collection of images on your hard drive, I'm sure, and it's all about taking that finally and putting it out into the world and presenting it in a fashion that we want to present it in. Now, the fashion that I'm using, no, now, the methods that I'm using and the way that I'm doing it certainly are my own, and there's nothing wrong with changing this up to fit your needs and to fit your workflow. I want to emphasize the idea I love to print in Photoshop. I certainly realize when we get to that point, there's going to be some people that say, hey, you need to try this RIP software and that RIP software. And yes, as I get more busy in the printing, I do see the opportunity and the need to utilize a RIP system for what I'm printing. But for now, I really do like the control I have in Photoshop and the method that I use in Photoshop. And so that is going to... But for now, I've been working in Photoshop for so long, 20 plus years, and it's just something that I'm super comfortable with, and that is a process that I like to teach because, quite frankly, pretty much everyone has Photoshop. So let's dive right in now where we're going to create a new gallery and select which item. So let's dive right in now where we're going to not only create a whole new gallery on the website, but we're going to select which photo is going to be the first fine art print offered from this gallery. Hey there, so here we are in Lightroom, and I've got pretty much, 24 photos initially selected in this set. So I'm going for my Croatia, where is it down here? Croatia Seascapes. And what I like to do is I'm going through all my images that are from a particular region. And I figured, well, I've got enough. I want to not do one of just Croatia, but I want to do one of Croatia landscape, Croatia street, Croatia seascapes, because I just feel I've got enough. When I have a a gallery that gets over 20 images, it just starts to feel to get a little bit more crowded to me. So I'm hoping to keep these galleries within the neighborhood of maybe 10 to 30 images is really the target, I suppose I could say. So if I go less than 10, then those should probably be put together with something else. And if I go over 30, then I want to think about really just limiting what goes into the collection. So as we look at the collection so far, certainly not all of these are going to make it to the final cut, but each image has a reason for being here. I would also definitely want to get across the idea not every image is finished in its processing. So, like this one, there's a lot of processing left to be done. I've got some it looks like I've got some information on the high end there where it looks blown out in the sky, but I can probably pull that back and rescue it. But then some of these images are done processing. This image is an image I particularly happen to just love, and I'll probably end up printing this one today because this image is just one of those things that it just really speaks to me. And then we've got another one where I've cropped it square, and I'm noticing, do I have a little bit of an oopsie? I've got a little bit of an oopsie in the file, so see, I would want to take care of stuff like that as well. So to do that, I'll just see if this will work for me. Not too bad. But these two are also the kind of fixes that I would do at the very end before I would publish a gallery. So you can see I got a lot of dust on this one. And so it's finished with its processing except for the dust spotting because that is a very tedious work. And I just want to do it on those images that are absolutely necessary for it to be done. On this image, I would presume I've possibly already done the dust spotting, although I can see a few little oopsies there. So let's just continue on and see what we can do for determining whether or not an image will make it in the gallery. So this image, it's in Shibboleth. It's not a bad image. It's just as it relates to what I want to get out there, what I want to put out there. It made the initial cut, but these images probably won't make the final cut. Now this one, not too shabby. I like the really prominent feature of the church there in Shibboleth, but then we also have the rest of the features with the sea life, the boats, and the hillside going up. Lots of kind of cool things working in that image. Certainly in this image, just a different dynamic, but we still have the overall atmosphere with the church in the background there. This is more along the lines of what I would probably put, maybe this one, although I'm missing the church in this one, I'm noticing. So I must have walked a little bit further down the way. You can see there's a separation here now with that yellowish building. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here. And how it is here, I'm more to the right on this one, so the church has gone away. Certainly I could crop in this image if I wanted to crop in a little tighter and mimic more this idea here. This is in Trogir. Really do love Trogir. This image is coming across to me now a little bit oversaturated, so let's check that out. Probably not a reason to be at plus 21. And then it's a little bit cockeyed too. So sometimes it's difficult with an image whether or not, and see, totally I would go with this one here. I like how the additional pieces are here on the far side over here, whereas this one just not as much. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that one. Hit the delete key, and it's out of the collection, but certainly still I haven't done anything with it in Lightroom. It's just out of the collection. But sometimes these images are hard to make a determination because I might like an image so much, but I might be liking it for different reasons than why someone would appreciate seeing it there in the gallery. So in some of these images back here, they made the initial cut because maybe there's a certain memory I have about walking down that waterway. Maybe there's, who knows, just something else that could be going on there. And I want to put everything through the filter of thinking, okay, what is a really honed in vision for what the whole seascape in Croatia is about? And certainly I guess we can say my experience there too, uh, certainly needs to play into that. But it's about what is going to be, what I can predict is going to be usable or visible or just again whatever that I'm trying to say here, but for the people who are out there and looking at the website and trying to either be inspired to go get their own pictures, or maybe they have a memory themselves, in this case of Dubrovnik, and they love this image because they were there in Dubrovnik and maybe they rented a boat or they whatever the case is, and so there's some kind of memory that works for them that elevates this image to a greater sense of value. That's the kind of thing I'm hoping to be able to achieve with these types of images. Now, this particular area here, I'm particularly fond of as well, in part because it's a very popular area for people to go and visit. So I think most folks are going to recognize this. This is the area between the upper portion, if we want to call that, of the old town of Dubrovnik and the walls of Dubrovnik and the fort over here. And I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, so I'll put the spelling here on screen for you. But this particular little cove is just a really awesome spot. And then I was able to grab this image with some really moody clouds, and then other things with the access over here into the. I mean, it's just so cool. And so this one I could see it's definitely making the cut. Certainly Old Town from above. This is the Boshenka area. Now I've got this one, and that one probably won't make the cut because I got this one, and I really like. We've got not only the fort up there, but this little ferry, this little boat coming in from Lokrum Island, and then certainly a longer, more horizontal appeal. That's totally fine. works pretty well. But again, this one with that same boat as this one has, yeah, I don't think this one's going to make the cut. So I'm going to get rid of that one. All right, so the nice horizontal image with Old Town and then some of the new parts, new bits of town coming in behind. Of course, we have the harbor there too. Lots of good things. This is a great image for being in a seascape gallery. And then this one I've already showed you. A vertical of this one. Certainly, I think I need to adjust the processing just a touch, but with the addition of that extra boat in there, actually that creates an interesting dynamic too. So I could see leaving this one in just because there's a little extra different. We got the vertical crop, and then of course we have that extra boat in there. So I might end up leaving that one in. And then finally, Locrum Island with Old Town off on the side there, and the quintessential cruise ship there. All right, and then here we are on the Old Town walls with that fort, that castle type fort type thing there. Yeah, there's just still again something here. If you've been on the wall, you've seen this. There's going to be some value to it. And just if you're on my site, if you don't want to buy a print of this, wonderful. But if I've been able to bring back that memory for you, then that is something for why I want to put it in the gallery for sure. So I think a lot of these are going to go ahead and keep, they're going to make the cut and stay in the gallery. But which one am I going to print? Which ones, maybe I should say, are going to be offered as fine art prints? That's the other thing that I'm working on today and in this episode. So when I'm going to make those decisions, those are going to be a lot cut above. It's going to mean something really special to me, and then hopefully that translates and means something special to viewers as well. Trogear, hopefully this one is going to be a good one. I think I'll offer this as a fine art print. But as far as what I offer today, I'm only looking to pull one all the way through to this notion of being a fine art print. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of this one, but I'm going to go ahead and try and crop this one a little more tightly to see if that makes any sense for what I'm looking to do. And of course I got a lot of room, so I can keep a lot more of that waterway. Starting it up here with the fort thing. Let's keep some of those clouds too. That's all right. Get rid of that little white dot there, whatever that is. I don't care what it is. It's a distraction, so I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm not paying attention at all to the aspect ratio. I don't really care about the aspect ratio on these types of things. My opinion for most of the work I'm doing is the aspect ratio is dictated by the subject at hand. There we go. Yeah, that ain't too bad. So comparing to that, yeah, I like this a lot better. We've got the wall going up, the hillside there, the little fort on the hillside. Lots of the seaside type stuff. Got the church there. There's so many good things going on here. So we're gonna get rid of that one. I think I'll go ahead and keep this one, but it does feel a little bit cockeyed. So let's go ahead and fix that up. And then on this one, as far as just being tighter in, this is where I have a decision to make too. On the gallery, do I want something that is only like this, or does it have value to get to just zoom in? I'm not convinced. Well, it might be. There's a certain progression, there's a certain story that's being unfolded here. And so if this were to be shown first and then you see this one next, or vice versa, I guess it really doesn't matter. Yeah, maybe I'll keep that one in there. But with this one, that's where this one has character. This one has a lot more character to it, and it gives you the same feel as far as the sense of place. So that's where I'm really tempted to just go ahead and get rid of that one. And usually, too, when I'm thinking about, do I need to keep something? Do I want to get rid of something? It's more about, am I going to be super duper proud of this because it's in my gallery? And that's what makes it in the gallery. Where if it's something where I'm just kind of on the edge and I'm kind of like wishy-washy, I don't want to just get rid of it because I want to put something out there that I am absolutely 100% proud of. All right, so let's think about these images too. See, I like, it's kind of like this where the wall is coming up this way as well. So, we got that wall section here, then another wall here. There's a little bit of a story told there, but I'm just not convinced that this is, it's just not gallery worthy. I don't think it's really intriguing enough to be gallery worthy. Now this one with the boats setting the stage, and then if your eye wanted to wander and you could see the wall, these things are out of focus, but I think that's okay. Um, and this one, a very strong line that takes you in. Yeah, this one I'm going to get rid of. But I think I might go ahead and keep this one. It helps. I think it helps fill in the gaps and tells a bit of a story about the location. Now, certainly, as you're watching this video, I may make decisions still further after I am done recording this section. And if some of these images are no longer there, or you see other images being brought in the final gallery, it's just because I've continued to process. And I just want you to not be too shocked if I were to make changes. This is not probably going to be the absolute final edit. I'm sure it'll be really, really close to it, of course, but possibly not the absolute final edit. Yeah, I think this is the one I'll be printing today. So I'll show you my dust spotting process on this image. All right, yeah, we're in the develop module, so we can see all these wonderful things here going gangbusters crazy. Yeah, so my problem here is still going to be there's just no detail there. And I'll be tempted to do some work in Photoshop, maybe even convert this to black and white, because when I have a blown out sky, and let's quickly go to this so I can assess color the way I usually assess color. Yeah, see, on black and white, this is where I can really get the texture of the ropes to be your focal point. And if I were to then crop it too, you can see I've already cropped it quite a bit, but if I were to crop it even more, what does that say about the image? It says the rope is your focal point. Now, I probably cropped it a little too tight, but still, this is about saying, hey, let's just crop it right there at the shoreline, basically. Getting a little more boat. Got the number 1 there. We see a little bit of stuff here. That's a little extra bright. I'll be darkening that for sure. But this is allowing this to really be the center stage here. And I still might even pick it up to go here, so we have the full boat and then that island mass behind. That feels a little more complete for sure. And just to add a little more, if we're going to print this, I want a little more breathing room for any type of matting that might happen or other oopsies, because when I do a final print size, I will crop it to a 1/4 inch. So I don't want something coming in at 0.33878 inches on the tall end or whatever the case is. I want it to be cropped to a 1/4 inch. So if I give myself a little more room here, then I'll have that room in Photoshop when I have to downsize it to that 1/4 inch increment. Yeah, I like that a lot better, but still I'm going to have to work on this to bring in something so it's just not, I just can't have that be such a huge draw for the eye. So the processing of these images will certainly come later. I'm not going to process these images right now. And, on this one I may also make a good black and white, because this one, the color wasn't doing much for it. I can bring out this structure a little bit. This is the city of Zadar, and I really like this transition, this really dark area down here, and how it transitions up into this region up here. There's just, there's a lot of, I think, good things happening in the black and white. And it's making a stronger statement as far as I'm concerned in the black and white. What is this about? It's about early morning in the harbor. We've got the ferry there and some other boats. The Jadrlinia ferry is the standard state ferry that runs all throughout the islands and up and down the Adriatic coast there in Croatia. And I think this is, I'll probably darken the sky a little bit too, but I think this has a better chance of staying in the gallery in black and white. Now, this image, also kind of interesting. I'm realizing I don't have another image in here that really should be here. So let's do this. I'm going to look at my street really quick and see if for some reason it is in the street gallery. You can see I got a lot more editing to do here. 96 images. Oh my goodness, there's way too much here. So if the one image accidentally got placed in the street gallery, and it didn't. So let's go to Seascapes here. I'm going to tell this to go to folder in library, and then my ZR imagery. Come on, where is this one image I'm looking for? It was taken during a horrific storm. So this is when I went over to Preco. Here it is. There we go. So let's make sure this one is in, because this is still a seascape. And there it is. So let's get back to Seascapes, and I want it towards the front since it was taken earlier in my trip. That was the wrong one. Where did that image? Here it is. Oh, we'll just leave it there. That's fine. All right, let's get rid of this so we can see it a little bit larger. And yeah, so this image was taken early, fairly early in my trip, but there was a horrific thunderstorm, and was able to grab this pano. And I had even done a black and white conversion, but I'll probably include it in the gallery as maybe even as both, but certainly as the color. I think the color is going to go well for us. So this is roughly the same area though, where that other image was taken just a couple of days earlier, and a day or two earlier. And I'm just trying to think how this is going to work, if I want this one to be part of the mix or not. Making sure it's level. It looks like it's level. Probably add a little bit of texture here. It's hard to see on this zoom, but I like how these concrete slash marble, whatever these things are, they show up a little extra granularly when I add a little bit of texture to them. So, yeah, so this is one where I'm probably not going to be able to make my final decision, but for now I'm still going to keep it here. So that means I've got 19 images overall in the collection, and that's a fairly decent collection. There's nothing wrong with that. So what I'll do now is I need to finish processing the images, but let me show you quickly my export process, and then let's get to this image and making it printable, because this is the one image I want to print. Well, let me say that. This is the one image I want to print, but I'm going to just quickly show you my export process. So bring back this panel here, and then when I select all, I just can hit this export here, and I've got a gallery 1600. So I put these out at 1600 wide and 1000 tall. So whichever of those dimensions is reached first, that's where Lightroom stops. So those vertical images will be 1000 tall. These horizontals will most likely be 1600 wide, unless of course, let's say it's a square or something like that. It's going to then reach the 1000 tall first. Do a JPEG at 65 sRGB on the color space. Do a very slight sharpen for screen, that's fine. And then for my gallery itself, I've decided not to do my watermark, but I certainly include all the metadata. So if someone were to download it and not at least strip the metadata, it would still be trackable with the metadata, and all my information is still there. But also by doing that, my gallery plugin will pick up all these caption items. So when I'm doing a caption, I'm going to cancel this. I do the title, I do the caption. The gallery plugin on my website will pick that information up. And so I also spend a lot of time writing these things out so those get picked up. Or if I want to then represent it somewhere else on the website, whether it's a blog post or something like that, I still have that information right there handy in the image itself. I don't have to go back to Lightroom or anything else, and it's just right there handy. and it's really easy to access then. All right, so let us make sure we have this image ready to go, full on ready to go with printing. First off, I want to look at the histogram. Certainly my monitor is calibrated, but um, I'm actually in a different office. I'm at my school office right now, and I usually make these determinations of what I'm looking at on screen. I usually make these determinations when I'm at my home office with those screens. So I'm just a little bit more used to judging and assessing off of the screen when I'm at the home office. But I can also take a look at the histogram, and I can understand what exactly is happening when I look at the histogram. So I'm going to mouse over this to see where my clogged values are here. I'm not opposed to that. I don't have anything blown in the highlights, so that's fine. And then with this significant presence here in the midtones, it has a weight towards the shadow areas, and as I look at this image, it totally makes sense. This is falling exactly where it should be. And of course, I did process this image on the home screen, so I'm not surprised that I'm fairly pleased with where it's coming through. So I won't need to do an exposure adjustment. I've got a contrast, really high contrast set, took the blacks down to about -38. As far as everything else is concerned, I've got a significant clarity. And texture, I just don't think texture is going to do hardly anything here. There's nothing that has that fine toned detail, fine grained, fine whatever detail that texture is really going to help a lot with. So I'm going to leave texture alone. I mean, if I had digital noise, certainly that would help out, but this is at a 200 ISO or 100 ISO, excuse me. So yeah, I just don't think that's going to be a problem. All right, so on the rest of these items, I think they're going to be fine. There's nothing wrong here. Let's see do I have any masks coming in? I actually don't have any masks, which is almost surprising. I'm usually going crazy with the masks, but as I look at the vignetting and whatever else that's happening, there's nothing here that is sticking out to me that says, Brent, this needs to be fixed. This is hideous or whatever. So on this processing for this image, the next thing I want to do is I want to zoom in at 100%. So let's go ahead and do this and make sure, verify I'm at 100%. So I want to zoom in at 100%, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to get on this healing tool, and the mode that it's on right now, there's content aware remove, there's this heal, and then clone, and it looks like the content aware remove is what's active right now. That's a relatively new one for Lightroom, so I'll be seeing how it goes. But if I were to let's bring up this navigator again, so we can just see that and where we're at there, and we'll get ourselves over in the corner. And then a beautiful little trick here in Lightroom is I'm looking about, and I'm trying to determine, do I have a dust spot? And then I'm just going to hit the page down button. And you can see in the navigator, it went down. If you're looking in your navigator when you're doing this, it goes down a whole screen's worth of you being zoomed into the image. And so this will guarantee that you never miss a pixel. So long as you're looking intently at your screen and looking all over, you'll never miss a pixel. And when you get to the bottom, as I'm about to do shortly here, it will automatically bounce you to the top. So here's our bottom of the image, and then it's going to automatically bounce me to the top, and I am able to, there we go, maybe this is a dust, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. So with the content aware remove, let's see how that works there. See that versus, let's delete that. And let's do the heal, where the heal will take a clone-ish from somewhere else and sort of heal it in. I described it in class. It's kind of like putting vitamin E on a scar, where it's going to graft away the scar. It'll smooth out the scar, as it were. And the problem, of course, that you could get when you do this is creating a little bit of a pattern, because it is going to pick up some of those pixels from over there and place them over here and translate them in. Clone is an absolute pickup, of course. So if I were to take that and drag it out a little further and get some other textured element not so close to it, then I'm going to have a better chance of it not picking up as a as a texture coming in. And I don't want it to be a visible texture for sure. All right, so another one there, and then let's keep going. So I'm going to go page down and just look throughout and make sure that everything I got is coming together here. Ooh, we got one down here. Let's grab that. So all these dust spots, of course, if I had been able to keep my camera clean on the road, not a problem. And sometimes I do take camera cleaning, sensor cleaning gear. I won't usually take my swabs, but I will take sometimes the Arctic butterfly, and I can usually grab 90% or more of all the stuff that is problematic with the Arctic butterfly. Some of these I'm just not sure if they are dust spots or not, and that's what can get a little bit confusing is to say, should I even be removing that? Should I even be touching that at all? Let's see what happens there when yeah, see those probably just look better still visible. They're small and insignificant. Of course, the point, I don't want to belittle the idea, because when I make these big, when I make it a big print, it's no longer going to be small and insignificant. And that's the kind of thing I want to be thinking about. The thing I'm preparing for is a big print. And so I don't want anything that is going to stick out like a sore thumb and say, look at me, I am ugly. You thought I was beautiful, but I am ugly. See, this might be a good candidate for content aware fill, so I can just snap that on there. That's a lot better. All right, let's do the page down, and then it'll pop me to the top actually, and off to the side, and we'll just keep going. And as we're going down, oh yeah, see, here's where we've seen these before already. All right, good, good, good. Okay, so this image is ready for its initial print. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to come out on the new paper I've been testing by Breathing Color. So what we're going to do now is export this, process it in Photoshop, and then we're going to get in the lab and we're going to get some test prints out on letter size paper. And I like doing test prints on letter size paper, not only because I can save money, but it just gives me a good overall sense anyway of how the paper is behaving. And well, then of course, back to the idea of saving money for doing that. I'm not going to put it on massive big paper. But I'm going to get these out on a letter size print on the Pura Smooth, because the black and white, I just love how the Pura Smooth handles it. And let's go ahead and get these exported so I can work with them in Photoshop. Now, certainly I could edit in Photoshop and go to town with it. But once I manage my images for the fine art printing, I actually want to take it outside of Lightroom. It may sound weird to you, and I appreciate that, but I really just want to be able to treat those separately. In my mind, it's just a completely separate issue. I'm going to have so many different files for the different sizes of printing and such, and Lightroom just isn't powerful for that. So I've got my preset here, Fine Art Print Master. I was kind of sort of looking for it, and there it is. So I export these out as TIFF images, no compression, ProPhoto, and 16 bits on the bit depth. I then have it not do any resizing. I like the 240. I can go into that in a different video or something, but I appreciate the 240 as a standard resolution for outputting, and certainly no watermark, but certainly all the metadata as well. So let's get that exported, and then I'm going to choose the folder, of course, that it's going to go into. It's not going to go into my Minnesota folder. Going back here to find our prints. I need a Croatia seascape. So I will title these items the exact same name as the gallery that they are in on the website, so I can more easily track these. So that is sort of my somewhat built-in tracking, because I already have the collection there in Lightroom that has this image in the collection, and then this is just duplicated, so it's easy, super easy tracking. So Croatia Seascape, and then I'll just dump it in right here. It's all fine and good. So this is going to be what I'm going to call my master file for getting these prints going, making these prints. So I don't know if you caught that when I was exporting those. I actually did all those 19. I've then stopped it. I was like, wait a second, this ain't working. So this 128, this is the image I want. All these others, I have not verified that they are print ready, nor am I going to actually make all of these available for print. So they just need to go bye-bye right now. That is wasted disk space. This is the one I want to work with. So I'm going to open in Photoshop, and the 2023 version at this time has been really buggy for me, so I'm going to go back to the 2022 version of Photoshop, and I'm going to work with it there. So with this being the print master, what I call that is, this is the file that every other file that I use to print will be based off of. Since this is going to go on the 8.5 by 11 size paper, I want to make this about 10 inches wide. It'll be in the neighborhood of 5.5, 6 inches tall. Not so concerned about that right now. I just want to do a about 10 inch wide item there. So there's no other work in Photoshop that I need to do, and I just want this to come out in the size that I want it. Certainly you could say, but Brent, you could have exported it at this size in Lightroom. Yes, I could have, but like I had mentioned, when I export something, I want to work I just want to work in Photoshop after that. I print from Photoshop, I assemble everything in Photoshop. So that's how, for me, I separate out my thinking and how I manage the files and how I just run life as a printer. So I'm going to go 10 inches here. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the 240. I could go 300 actually, and so maybe since this is such a small piece, it would make sense to actually go 300. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's not a huge difference. What I want to do, my main thought on that is I want to be in an even multiplier for whatever my printer resolution is. And so the 240 happens to be something that really works well on the on both Canon and Epson. I'm somewhat shifting myself over to the Epson side of things, and so really this should be 360 or so if I wanted to be an even multiplier. So let's talk about that really quick and what I'm dealing with there. My Epson printers are a 2880 resolution, and if I divide that by 360, then it goes in evenly 8 times. Yay! That's beautiful. That's perfect. If I do 2880 and I divide that by 300, it goes in 9.6 times. So that's not as convenient. Is not the easy math, as it were, is just not there. It's just kind of missing out. 2880 divided by 240 is 12. All right. So what if I were to do 2880, and if I were to divide it by 9? So that's 320. So I could make this a 320 and be just as happy as a clam, because it's an even multiplier when I get from Photoshop to the printer itself. And so that 300 even, while that's a very common size to do, I would prefer that the print dialog box, or the print driver itself, I should say, just doesn't have as much math to fudge around when it's calculating my sharpening settings and things like that. So I can do 360, I can do 320. I've got plenty of space. I got plenty of resolution. Anything beyond 360 will be superfluous because it's just useless. You're not going to see, especially on this image, you're not going to see those details. So when it comes to my decision, 240, 360, 320, all those numbers are flying about. My overriding concern is that it is an even multiplier for the resolution that the printer has. And then I want to think about too, what are my sharpening settings going to be? Because my resolution determines what my output sharpening settings are going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and take 360 and just run with it here. Again, especially for this image, probably way too much more than it needs. But we're going to be okay with it. So Command 0 to get it to be full screen. Let's just go ahead, well, let's do this. And then what I like to do for my output sharpening, I make this a smart object. So when I do my sharpening, I can come back to it and I can go 6 ways to Sunday and modify those sharpening settings. So I'm able to dial it in perfectly and get it spot on, just right. Now another thing, well, we'll talk about this, I guess, when I get it printing. I'm just going to be talking too about the density of these blacks and how they're going to come out on print. That is definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to. If I notice that I can make a change here in Lightroom or in Photoshop, I may make a decision. All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a change in Lightroom. I may only make it in Photoshop, but I want it to be consistent for that paper. So whenever I'm using that paper, I'm going to want to have something on there that says, this is for when I use this particular paper. This is, and so I can then bake that into the print master. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's just get to sharpening, and let's use. I usually, there's two that I use. I'll either use Smart Sharpen or Unsharp Mask. I like Unsharp Mask just for its simplicity. The problem with Unsharp Mask is it has a really small preview. And so as I'm looking at what's going to happen here with how this is treated, it's just a really small preview. And certainly with this particular image, there's not hardly anything that's actually sharp. So this is actually sharp. So I'm going to go with that. All right, so let's take a little bit of a trip down math lane here once again. So 360 is my resolution, and I want to set my radius to 1/2 of 1% of that item. So if I were to make this 1%, so that's 3.6, I divide that by 2 to get half. That's 1.8. So somehow it already knew it wanted me to do a radius of 1.8. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I usually do a lower resolution, and so this number would be bigger. But 1/2, or smaller, excuse me. But 1/2 of 1% is my starting point. Hugely, hugely important to understand. This is a starting point for it. I may decide to go bigger. I may decide to go smaller once I see the results in print. Given that this is going to be a small format print, I'm likely going to hold it right where it's at. When it's a larger format print, I'll usually go a little bit more than this starting point, this 1/2 of 1% starting point. So it is what it is. It's fine. Then the threshold is what determines, okay, how do we define an edge? So 10 is going to be fine on this image. Basically just looks at the contrast on that edge. It says, what is it that makes an edge? And if I were to bump this up to say 300, we'll really see some results here in how that is sharpening. But since this is, so many things are absolutely not going to get sharpened because of this threshold is set to 10, and of course because the subject is what it is. It's a blurry image. So whatever I'm sharpening, I'm only going to be sharpening very little tidbits and bits and pieces. Up here, I'll probably get some sharpening going. You can see there some sharpening is happening. But 300 is way too much. As a starting point, I want to be between about 80 and 130. So when I had 125 or so to begin with, I liked that. And I'm going to go back down to 120. What I want to be able to do is when I'm clicking this, so I click the button and that hand makes a little bit of it grabs it. you really can't see much, and that is exactly what I'm looking for. I want it so it's barely perceptible here on screen, and I'm at the 1080, 1920 by 1080 resolution as well for you. So you're seeing it at that resolution, and then that's what I have here on my screen itself. So this could be something where it trips you up when you are doing this for yourself and you have a 4K screen, because you might not see what these differences are, what's happening here, because it's such a small amount, and then you end up bumping it up to like 150, 200, just so you can see it, because you're on such a tightly pixeled screen. That's where you're just going to have to get used to it. So this is where I'm gonna say this is good for my initial setup, my initial items. We're gonna call that good, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this out, Command Shift S, and right there in the same area, just do that, and I'm going to do 10 wide. I have no idea what the height is. I didn't even look, but I'm going to just do 10 wide there. So quickly go to my image size. Yeah, so 5.625 inches is the height. So this is just a test image to see how the paper behaves and all that stuff. So here we are, and ready to go and get the print started. So we will pick up in the lab, ready to go with printing.